I've made every mistake in the book, and I've seen what makes new hires thrive and what makes them fail. In this video, I'm sharing the 6 biggest mistakes I've made and how you can fix those mistakes so that your people stick longer, succeed faster, and make you more money. All these lessons are super important, but stick around for number 4 because this one gave me insane results and made a huge difference in our businesses. Number 1, if you don't map out their first 6 to 8 weeks, you're setting them up to fail. So in the past, we used to do very little planning after we would hire somebody. We'd set up a general plan like, for a sales rep, do a couple estimates, maybe go to a job site, learn how to estimate a house. But it was very unintentional and it was very vague. The problem with this is there's a lot to learn no matter what the role is. And people learn at different rates and different times. And so you want to make sure to plan out a very meticulous 6 to 8 weeks and adjust that plan as you go. When you have a really good plan laid out, it's not always going to go to plan, but then you can see where you need to change direction and make it a better plan or, audible to a different solution. So in the past, when we would hire somebody, we didn't have very good plans laid out, right? We'd kind of shoot from the hip. And the problem with this is, one, people would quit if they didn't see results quickly. And also it would take them a long time to even see those results because training would take weeks and weeks. So instead, we do a very meticulous laid out plan on how to train somebody, right? So every single week is very built out. So let's say for a sales rep, week 1 and 2, studying SOPs, learning systems, role playing, shadowing estimates, and it's very laid out as far as how many estimates we want them to see, how much role playing we want them to do. Very, very clear plan. So by the time they start working on their own, they hit the ground running and they succeed almost right away. So with the next points, I'm going to talk more about what that plan might look like and what to do during their training. But first lesson you want to learn is have a very built out first 6 to 8 weeks of their training. If your role play is just good enough, it's definitely not enough. So role playing is critical. And in the past, we just never did enough role playing. And we see this with a lot of companies where, role playing can be awkward at first. It can be boring. All the reasons under the sun not to role play. The problem with this is you want people to get down your words and your systems. And the only way to do that is you've got to rep it over and over and over again. Just like any sport analogy, you've got to rep. And so role playing is critical. If, for example, for a sales rep, if you're training a sales rep and they know the systems like the back of their hand, when they go off on their own, they're going to pick things up a lot faster. If they kind of know the systems, then they're going to fall on their face. They're not going to get results. Then they're going to be disempowered and you have to go back out and retrain them. So before we would role play just until it was basically good enough, right? It was okay, that kind of barely passes and we'd send people out. The problem with that is they would fail, right? It would take them a long time to succeed and to get the systems down. And then you have people quit earlier. You have people get disempowered. You have to go back in the field with them a lot more. So to avoid all of that, role play, role play, role play. Whatever amount you're role playing right now, I promise you it's not enough. You want to role play your systems and scripts 5 to 7x what you think you should do. In short, you want them to master the roles first, then they can riff and go on their own and get really, really masterful at the role itself. People work harder and learn faster when they know what they're building. So in the past, we wouldn't really connect our people to the bigger picture and what we were building until they kind of earned it or until they, earned their stripes, right? And this is a common misconception in business where, you don't tell your new employees really what you're doing until they've earned it. This is a huge mistake. What we've seen is when we connect new employees from the get-go to what we're really building and the real future of what we're doing, it has them work harder. It has them perform better, faster. It has them ask more questions. It has them just so much more engaged in the business itself and has them really be a part of what you're building. And so we highly recommend you get them connected to the why in your business and behind every single system and SOP that they're a part of. So what to take from this is from day one, get them connected to your mission, to your values, to the career paths and the career opportunities that they have for themselves. It will have you build much better employees and a much better company just overall. So if you stuck with me until now, this one is massively impactful. And it's funny because it's kind of a boring one, but it's the most important part of this whole video. Without documented systems, training will depend on you forever. Okay, so before we had systems built out and our SOPs built out for all our roles, it was all orated, right? I had to teach everybody everything. And I had to just depend that my managers also could teach their people everything. It took a lot of time to train people because nothing was written down. It was all hey, try this, hey, try that. Also, things weren't congruent. I might say something, but then a manager that was working with that same employee might say something else. And it made a big mess. And it took a long time to train anybody. And worst of all, I had to do basically all the training. It took me forever to build a company. In fact, it took us longer to build a 5-person team than it took us to build it from a 5 to a 17-person team that we have right now. So it worked. We built a pretty good sized company, but it wasn't sustainable and it was not consistent. A few years ago, one winter, me and the leadership team just sat down for 2 months and we made over 300 SOPs and systems for all our different roles. Now, you don't need to build that many to build a good company, but you do want to sit down and build out at least basic systems and SOPs that your team can follow. If you don't do this, you're going to have to train them forever, right? So you've got to build out the systems and SOPs. Then you can train managers on those, and those managers can train your employees on the same SOPs. This is really the only way you're going to actually scale a company. So if you're not interested in scaling, like that's okay, just keep doing what you're doing. But if you are interested in building, a sizable company that makes real money and really makes a difference for people and has career paths for everybody, you got to build out your systems and SOPs. So this one also can be overwhelming for people. It's like, where do I even start? What you want to at least start with is document the key processes that you follow to sell a paint job, right? Or to hire a subcontractor or to paint a house, right? You want to just document just the key processes that you use in order to do those things. Little hint, I'll get to this at the end of the video, but Painting Business Pro has a ton of systems already built out that you can plug and play into your business. If they don't know the why, then they will not stick to the how. Okay, so another big mistake we made is when we had all our systems built out, they're great systems, they worked, but we wouldn't teach people the why behind the system. So we would just tell them, hey, follow these systems blindly, just do as we say. The problem with that is people have their own brains, they have their own judgments, they have their own opinions. And so not even necessarily consciously, but maybe subconsciously, they would kind of riff off the system. They would do a different system than what we had built, thinking that it might work better. The problem is they didn't understand the why behind the system is the way it is. And the system is the way it is because we've failed so many other ways where we knew this was the right way. And that's not to say systems don't change up. Like we're always improving our systems as we go. But when you train people the why behind a certain system, they understand it behind the scenes. Like they understand why they're following it in this certain way. And so they're going to do it more often the right way. And so you don't have to train them as much in the future. So give your people the why behind, if you're doing an estimate, a sales estimate, give them the why behind the walk around. Like, hey, this is why we do a meticulous walk around. This is why we point out this and why we say that. Because then when they're on their own, they'll really get it. They'll understand like, oh yeah, I want to do it this way because it actually reaches the customer that much better. And so I'm going to book more work that way. So you've got to teach your people the why behind every single system right from the get-go. So you might be role-playing a system, and then you might just take a pause and say, hey, by the way, this is why we do it this way. We used to try it this way, we used to try it that way. Those ways, they work, but this way worked the best, and here's why. When teaching any SOP, explain why it's done that way, why it works, and why other ways don't work. They might be learning the wrong lesson. Okay, a huge mistake we used to make is we wouldn't check in with people on what they're learning from whatever we're teaching them, right? So we'd teach people stuff and we knew it like, the back of our hand. And so we'd kind of just assume that they just learned what we wanted them to learn. In reality, people can pick up the wrong lesson. They can pick up bad habits. They can think you meant one thing when actually you meant the other thing. By the way, this also happens when you're doing sales estimates or when you're working with a client. What you want to do with new trainees is after you teach them something, you want them to say it back to you, right? You want to make sure they're actually learning what you want them to learn. When you do this, I promise you, you will find that they actually are learning lessons you did not mean for them to learn. So teach them something and then say, okay, so I just said a lot there. What are you taking away from what I just said? I want to make sure you got what I meant for you to get. And you want to hear it come out of their mouth. And if they got the wrong lesson, that's great. Say, oh, okay, cool. That's okay. But here's actually what the intention is of this system or this process or this whatever. So lesson to learn here is after each system, ask them to explain what they learned. If it's right, reinforce. If it's wrong, correct it immediately. If you fix even 2 or 3 of these mistakes, your new hires will last longer, perform faster, and require less of your time. At Painting Business Pro, we put a ton of time and effort into building these ready-made systems and SOPs. So if you're interested, click the link below in the description to learn more.